Hi everyone, welcome to AI ML Data Talk podcast. It's been some time, so my name is Quan Hong. So I think today we are at Google I/O Connect in Shanghai, China, and as my guest today, we have Sam. Maybe Sam, you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. We've done this before,
Yeah,
right?
we
We
done
did
this
this,
before.
I think, a year ago. I'm a Google developer expert for machine learning, now for AI and cloud and a few other things along the way. I work on basically large language models and things around agentic systems with large language models.
Yep. So I think I've been hibernating from my podcast, the AI ML Data Talk podcast. I think it's good that we are here and we are given the opportunity to talk about AI. I think with Sam around, so we were thinking about for the we are coming to the month of August. It's also good to recap back what's happened for 2025 for the past 6 months. So maybe we can go through some of the things, exciting things, and maybe we also can discuss about what are the trends. Maybe also we can sneak in some prediction what we think will happen maybe in the upcoming years. We'll start. Can start by talking about I think the people are all excited about large language model. I think this year Gemini 2.5 is one of the most exciting model out there. So
So it's been a crazy year. We're like 8 months, seven,
yes.
8 months into it. Yeah, we've seen, so at the end of last year, we saw the introduction of the 2.0 models. We then saw a whole bunch of sort of updates and previews of 2.0, and then also the 2.5 models. And we've now got all the 2.5 Pro, Flash, Flashlight, and 2.5 DeepThink model just came out about a week and a half ago as we're recording this now. Definitely, I think they've changed the game. Obviously, other companies have sort of caught up and brought out new models as well. We've seen new models from Anthropic, from OpenAI, but I think the Gemini models have really sort of hit their moment with 2.5. For a long time, people were kind of interested in them, but they didn't want to try them or something like that. And I think with the 2.5 Pro especially, people are using this as their daily workhorse, for getting sort of intelligent tasks, and then Flash for the really quick ones, and Flashlight for even sort of things that need less intelligence but really quick.
Yeah, interesting you talk about the DeepThink models. I know you did a YouTube video about it. So what is you think is a real use case? I think what they have said, they have achieved quite of achievement in the mass competition. So beyond that, where you think is the most exciting use cases
So
for that?
the DeepThink model is really interesting, and I was testing that for over a month before it sort of came out. One of the issues with it is it takes time, right? It is really, like the name says, DeepThink. It's not something that's just super quick. So obviously, when Google launched it, they launched it, talking about the International Math Olympiad, that a fine-tuned version of that model basically got to a gold medal standard for that, and that was like pretty amazing moment. And not only did it get to a gold medal standard, but when people actually read the proofs that it came up with, they were very sort of human relatable proofs, meaning that mathematicians who work in that field were able to read it perhaps much better than other models that had done sort of similar things, where, yeah, maybe it got to the right answer, but the way it got there wasn't was a bit sort of strange. And that kind of reinforces the whole thing with DeepThink. So DeepThink is the kind of thing where if you've got a really hard problem that you want the model to think for a fair amount of time on, and it can think anything from sort of 5 minutes, right to sort of, I think I showed an example of one of the IMO problems. It took 16 minutes or something, and it can even go out longer than that. The idea is that what it sort of does is it does a lot of things in parallel. So compared to, say, 2.5 Pro, where the moment you press enter, or the moment you sort of send it to the model, it's literally just, milliseconds to a second or two before it's coming back with the sort of first, at least thinking tokens or thinking summaries and stuff. With DeepThink, with deep thinking, it doesn't really rush back. What it does is it sort of does a lot of these different sort of chains of thought in parallel, and then just sort of compares them to decide, okay, which ones are the ones that, you know, actually are going to be the right answer or the most useful kind of thing. So you definitely want to use it on sort of things that have a high degree of difficulty. It's not something that you're just going to use as a chatbot, you know. That kind of defeats the purpose. And I think that's one of the things that perhaps many people didn't realize is just like, you know, that this is not a fast model, right? It's going to, you know, it's going to take quite a while. It's coming to the APIs at the moment. It's only in the Google app for Ultra users, but it's coming to the APIs. And it's something that I think, you know, people are going to realize that they're only going to use it perhaps very sparingly, right, to actually go to this model. So if you're a company and you're trying to work out maybe perhaps a logistics problem, you're trying to work out, you know, something that requires a sort of deeper level of thinking, this is the model that you can go to.
So I think now, as it's available now, is actually only for Google AI Ultra subscription.
Yes.
Do you think that it will come down to, maybe the cost will come down and it's available for mass use or something?
Okay, we know that always the LLMs, the cost comes down, right? That's like pretty standard. Yeah, I think that will happen. Like I said, it's going to come to the API. I think over time, it will maybe come to other levels in some of the subscriptions. It may not end up being sort of a free thing, or if it is a free thing, it's probably going to be pretty limited in how people can use it. It uses a lot of compute to be able to do what it's doing. But yeah, over time, all of these things become more and more available.
Yeah, so I think we can segue a bit. I think for the past week, another model just came up from OpenAI, which is GPT-5, which is also quite interesting. As you described in your video, you said it's not just one model, it's a system. So do you think, maybe we can just talk about GPT-5 and what's your impression about it?
So GPT-5 is an interesting model. I haven't totally made up my whole mind about it. I don't feel I've used it enough to sort of give them one, because I believe it's lots of models in the background, right? Or at least a few models in the background. It's using a router system, which is not an idea that's new. It's been around for a while, this idea of having some way of looking at the prompt that's coming in and then deciding, okay, does it go to this model or this model or this model? In that way, I think the idea is good, but maybe the execution is not quite there yet. And the thing, my guess is that what's going to happen is they will get better at the router over the next few weeks. So I wouldn't write the model off. I wouldn't say that it's like a total failure or anything like that. Far from it, right? I was very critical of the 4.5 model, which I believe was the original 5 model from last year. That one really just didn't sort of show enough signs to justify the cost. The GPT-5 is definitely, the costs, you know, look lower, although apparently it uses a lot more tokens, right? And I've seen this in testing too, is that for prompts that before would only maybe use 2,000 tokens, now it's using sort of 6,000. So maybe you need to take the price and times it by 3 to actually get the real price. It's still early days. Literally hasn't been a week, you know, as we're recording this, it hasn't even been out a week yet.
So do you think, why is it the token is at the prompt side is getting more? Is it they're doing some sort of pre-processing before they actually do the routing side?
I don't think it's so much the pre-processing. It's more the thinking tokens that are coming back. You know, and that's what's sort of, and they don't share the thinking tokens with you, right? You only get summaries of that. You don't get the actual sort of full thinking tokens.
Yeah. So connecting back, like Google, when they release, they always come up with a main model, then they have a flash model. They don't come up with like OpenAI, they have some the model, then they have the old model, the thinking model, and now with GPT-5, once we released it, they actually took out all the other models.
Yeah, on ChatGPT they did. Yeah, for OpenAI.
So you think that I can foresee that maybe in the future most of the computers are going to do the same thing?
So Google already has a thing called Model Optimizer. And Model Optimizer does the routing kind of thing in a similar way, but it's fully your choice, right? So you're not being forced to have to use this. You can choose to use it and try it out, or you can choose to use Pro or Flash or Flashlight. You know, that's up to the user's choice, right? you got to think that in some ways having choice is a good thing,
Yes.
right? I will say though that for a lot of people, the model optimizer does make sense, right? Where you see a lot of companies where they're trying to use the Pro for everything, and you just don't need
Yep.
it, right? Flash and Flashlight are so good for so many things
Yep.
that you don't need the best model for everything. Especially when we see people making chatbots and stuff like that are sort of got a lot of chit chat. You can do that with like the smallest model out there now. All of the models have gotten so much better.
Yeah, I think it's human nature. Isn't it? Given the best model, why would I use an inferior model? Isn't it? Yeah, but I think there's also a comment said that people like I think the intention behind OpenAI is a lot of people also don't know the difference between old model and the normal model. So I definitely would just choose the normal model. So given now with GPT-5, you just do the routing for you. You actually save a lot of the problem because a non-technical user will not know the difference actually. So I think that could be one of the solutions.
Yeah, if they can get the router working
Yeah.
well, then it's going to be a lot better. That's true.
Okay, so I think we can shift gear a bit. The next topic we want to talk about is definitely about agent. So we all know that 2025 is the year of agent.
Yep.
And then recently Google in I think April they launched during Google I/O they launched this A2A agent to agent and also ATK. So what's the take on that?
So ADK is taken off really quickly. It was definitely late to the game, in comparison. But I think in some ways that was good for Google. I spoke to Richard Sirota, who's the chief evangelist at Google, and he made a funny comment that like, okay, maybe ADK is a little bit later than the other frameworks, but Google itself was the 26th search engine. It wasn't the first search engine, right? So being first doesn't always mean that you're going to win. The cool thing that for me about ADK is that since it's been released, which was, it was sort of not in preview mode, but a very sort of early release at Cloud Next. I think it went to 1.0 at Google I/O. We've since had sort of 1.5. We're up to 1.9 now for the releases. So this consistency of just putting out new versions is really good, right? And with each one, they fix bugs, they add new features, they're sort of, getting a much better sense now of how people want to use this. And so they're adding sort of things to do that. I think we're seeing a lot of new things at the moment with all the telemetry of being able to trace your agents, which is really important. Being able to run evaluations, again, really important kind of thing. So even though perhaps maybe at the start they were behind, they've caught up very quickly. And the other thing that they've sort of brought with it is that you have things like Agent Engine. So where you can basically take this and deploy it in Google Cloud, and it will sort of manage. So if you've got an agent that runs for quite a while, that's fine. It can run in this, much better than maybe even Cloud Run for that. So it's sort of like a modified version of Cloud Run. And the way that they're doing this definitely gives them sort of like a bit more of a story for enterprise. So that not only can you sort of make your agent, you can then serve your agent. And then with A2A, which is the agent-to-agent framework, you can actually have your agent talk to other agents out there. This seems, to be a really big win, right? The whole sort of thing. And I'll be honest, at the start, I was a little bit suspicious of like, okay, is this going to take off? We know that like MCP has taken off, right? And that came really early with ADK. We didn't know, okay, is the A2A thing going to take off? But it does look like people are starting to use it. People are starting to look into it. And definitely people are really interested in this whole area of having it so that one agent that you build can get help from other agents and can reach out to other agents, maybe for translation, maybe for local information. So we're filming this in Shanghai now. If I've got an agent that's a travel agent, I would like to be able to reach out to a specialist agent that knows everything about Shanghai, right? And things like that. So I think A2A is definitely a thing. and this whole agent to agent kind of protocol is definitely something that's needed. So I think, and also Google's, I think they set out from the start to donate this to Linux. They didn't want to, I think Google's very smart to realize that they didn't want to be seen like they're trying to control it all. They were like, okay, look, we'll get it up, get it going, and then we can give it to the Linux Foundation.
Yeah, this is good, for, especially people saying that this is just an agent, but people are yet to see that where is the use case, where is the product that is to be built. I think with all this framework, it definitely accelerates the development process. Okay, so maybe we could just shift gear. Maybe it's our last topic.
Right.
We can talk about open source. So open source is
awesome. I'm wearing the Gemma
yeah,
t-shirt.
that's why I was talking about. I want to talk about open source since you're wearing the Gemma t-shirt. So recently, Gemma has definitely have a trajectory growth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variants of Gemma out there. There's Bali Gemma, there's MedGemma. So how do you see all this open source ecosystem, especially for this open source model, AI model?
So the open source system is exploding, right? So we're filming in China. Some of the best models around at the moment are from China. Things obviously like DeepSeek, everyone knows now. They didn't, last time when we talked, all the Quen models, they're doing really well. There's a whole bunch of models from Tencent, from other places in China. You gotta say that Meta has kind of dropped their game. Like Llama 4 was a big flop. Right? So, they've sort of dropped back and now they're spending all this money to try and get people back in, probably not even for open source. And then you've got, Google, the Gemma models definitely growing. We saw the release of Gemma 3 earlier this year, Gemma 3N at I/O, 3M with voice more recently. There's a whole bunch of things in the pipeline, I think, for Gemma that are going to come out, between now and the end of the year. And everything that I'm seeing is like the Gemma team is just on a roll, right? They're really going for it. They're really, they're trying to make new, interesting models. Things like MedGemma, and people, if people have been in this sort of industry for a while, you can think back to there was a thing called MedPalm, right? Which goes back, quite a few years before Bard and stuff like that. And the challenge there is those models were never made open, right? One, because they were so big and stuff like that, and it was very hard for, say, startups to get access to this. MedGemma now, anyone can get access to it, right? You've got a small 4B model, you've got the 27B model. Anyone can basically use those, fine-tune those, put them into production. And when you test them against the old sort of medical models, even like MedGemini, the first version of that, this thing is like, on par with a lot of the stuff that they can do. So it is amazing that you can actually just go, and one of the things I was playing around with it was going and looking at symptoms on WebMD, where you would look up, something and it would tell you the symptoms, putting the symptoms in here, pretending to have those symptoms, and it would then be able to go, give you some kind of advice about it and stuff like that. It's probably not at the point where you want to replace your doctor. You still want to keep your doctor, and Google's certainly not saying that you should be doing, getting rid of your doctors or anything like that. But the idea is that this, combined with things like the multimodal part of it, you can take radiology scans, you can take things like this, put it in there, and then get really useful outputs out of it. So that's just one. There's like a number of these different, you've got Gemma Shield, a whole bunch of things around sort of guardrails and protecting, models and stuff like that. Being able to sort of protect bad outputs and bad inputs into models is also something really good. And then, probably the last company which kind of surprised everyone was OpenAI releasing GPT OSS,
yes.
last week. I don't think the name is a great name. Like, it's not really open source software. It's open weights. But at least they've gotten back into the game of doing that. The question is going to be, how long does that stay relevant? it's going to be really interesting 3 months from now, 6 months from now. Are we looking back and going, oh yeah, everyone's still using GPT OSS and maybe new versions of Gemma and some things like that? Or are we going to look back and go, oh yeah, no, like DeepSeek R2 came out and blew everyone away, or like another Chinese model I really like is actually Kimi too.
Yeah, Kimi.
Kimi K2 that's an awesome model.
Which
I
is
love,
actually excel in coding, isn't it?
it's a really good model. Yes, like people are actually swapping that out for things like Claude Code and
yes.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. So how do we tie all this back? Since we are already coming to the end of mid of August, we are like 4.5 months to go for 2025. Where do you see the direction of? What's your prediction? What's in your magic ball?
So you could imagine a new version of one of the big Google models coming out.
Okay.
I think we'll see that probably by over the next few months.
Okay.
I think we'll see new versions of Gemma, coming out. And I don't think none of this stuff is stopping, right? Like the people talk about like, okay, are we hitting a wall? Like and I think maybe some of the fast growth is slowing down a bit. Yeah, okay, you could say that about GPT-5 and some of these other models, but it's not stopping, right? And Google's brought on a whole bunch of new TPUs, which then so allows them to just keep going with this. And I think other people in the industry are also starting to do the same sorts of things. So I expect that we will see Quen 3.5, Quen 4 over the next 6 months plus. We will see new models from DeepSeek, new models from Google. So yeah, it's a very exciting time still. I don't see anything changing like that. I think even if we were to stop though today, people haven't really exploited what they can do with the current models. Like I am constantly amazed when I see things that people can do with the models. Like we were at the keynote before and they're talking about dolphin Gemma, right? And the idea is literally that that they train it on on signals from dolphins to be able to repurpose things like that.
I think it'd be fun to have a cat Gemma.
Like who knows? Maybe 6 months from now we're talking about cat Gemma.
Everyone want to talk to the cat and dogs.
People can talk to their pets or something. That's going to be pretty amazing. I suspect that maybe that's a little bit a while off. I know there's some really interesting research into whales though. Like that's some of the things that they've discovered. And using these models allows researchers to actually discover new things about how how these animals are communicating and things like that, even if we can't talk to them directly yet.
Okay, so I think we kind of wrap up what we have discussed for the past 6 months. So thank you for Sam for having this time for this being a guest for my podcast, AI, ML, and Data Talk podcast. Looking forward to having you again in the future. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.